Naruto, God-level lottery powers unleashed. Episode 61. Sure Qi Xingchen, Mu Xiu will destroy it in the forest wind. This truth, I think you also understand. The blame is that you are too sharp. Hanzo suddenly said coldly, kill. Rain Shinobu and Sand Shinobu suppressed the army at the same time, and Hanzo and Kazekage also attacked the stars at the same time. Protect Captain. Yuna and everyone rushed up and followed closely beside Xingchen, although they know that with their strength, they are undoubtedly hitting stones with pebbles. But at this moment, the consciousness of being a ninja has awakened, and he vows to coexist and die. Hanzo, in vain your generation of legendary ninjas actually did such a broken promise. Do you still know how to write the word shame? At this critical moment, an angry shout sounded. Xingchen was slightly startled. Tsunade? This voice was too familiar to him. Who was it? Not Tsunade. But weren't Tsunade in another battlefield? Why did they suddenly come here? Soon, he knew again, because it wasn't just Tsunade who came. Orochimaru, Jiraiya, the third generation of Hokage, Danzo, Kiki Shua Shigeru, and countless elite ninjas of Konoha. Obviously, the wise three generations of Hokage knew that something would happen to him here, and he immediately gathered his manpower and rushed to support. Ape Flying Sunslash? When Hanzo and Kazekage saw the three generations of Hokage, they couldn't help but look stunned, and they didn't dare to make a rash move for a while. The three generations of Hokage are also legendary figures, and their strength is only higher than theirs. There is also a group next to it, although the strength is slightly worse, but it is also a shadow level, which cannot be underestimated. If these two sides fight, it will inevitably be one in one battle, and the Second Ninja World War may end there. Xingchen, are you okay? Tsunade came to Hoshido's side and asked with concern, what can I do? Xingchen shrugged. Since he stayed to meet the enemy, he had absolute self-confidence. Even if you don't have support today, you can still stay safe. Don't be stubborn. The three shadow levels on the opposite side. If you are scared, rest well, and then leave it to us. Tsunade saw that the stars were really okay and joked lightly. Xingchen rolled her eyes. Without me, you can't beat them. Three generations of Hokage, Hanzo of the mountain pepperfish, and three generations of wind shadow. The strength is between Buezhong. However, don't forget that there is a dirt shadow on the opposite side. Although Tsukikage does not seem to look amazing, his bloodstains eliminate the dust, and it is almost incomprehensible ninjutsu. Even if three generations of Hokage are against each other, one is defenseless, and it is estimated that it will become slag. Of course, the three generations of Hokage must have some understanding of the Earth Shadow, and the Earth Shadow wants to be the third generation of the Fire Shadow in seconds, and it is estimated that there are not many opportunities. However, it is difficult to say that Orochimaru, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and the others, after all, they are still young and lack strength and experience. It's a tricky situation. Tsunade is not big, cautious. Ape Flying Sun, do you really want to fight us here and end this war early? Kazekage asked in an unkind tone. What you said, if you hadn't targeted the stars first, I wouldn't have been so excited. The third generation of Hokage said lightly, unless you have the ability to kill all of us, don't think about touching a single hair of the stars. When Xingchen heard this, he touched his nose, but his impression of the three generations of Hokage changed a lot. This kid killed so many of my people, how can he let him go so easily? Wind Shadow was naturally unwilling. Wind Shadow, don't forget that this is war. Isn't war that you kill me and I kill you? You can only be blamed for your inferiority. In the same way, if you have the ability now, you can kill us all. Hokage, if we really fight, we may not have a chance. There are three shadow levels on our side, and the number of people is several times that of you. Then less nonsense and go to war. The three generations of Hokage are very strong. Xingchen's impression of the three generations of Hokage is still stuck in the original work, when the three generations were already old, and it was inevitable that they were a little afraid to do things. But it is clear that the three generations of young people are also hard-tempered and very strong. Although your own side is indeed a disadvantage, if you want to fight, then fight. This time the Wind Shadow stopped talking, although they did seem to be superior, but the union between the three ninja villages was only a benefit, and each had its own selfishness. No one can predict the consequences of such a fight, so it is impossible to make a decision lightly. Okay, although it is the time of the war, I don't think anyone wants to fight to the death at this time. It's better to just treat it as if it didn't happen, and everyone dispersed. It was Tsukikage who spoke, and when he said this, it meant that he definitely couldn't fight now. Without the Earth Shadow, Hanzo and the Wind Shadow did not dare to make a move at all. Since Tsukikage said so, then let's each return to the battlefield and fight again. Hanzo also admitted it, and did not want to fight here for the sake of the stars. After all, there was no preparation. The only thing that is a little unwilling is the Wind Shadow, but unfortunately he has no choice. One day you will fall into my hands. In the end, the three groups of people of Yu Shinobu, Sand Shinobu, and Iwa Shinobu all left. Phew. Fortunately, the three of them also have suspicions between each other, and they dare not really fight, otherwise we will probably suffer losses. The third generation Hokage breathed a sigh of relief. There is no danger, and the stars are fine. It's really thanks to you that you came from 3 battlefields to save me. Although Xingchen thinks that he will not suffer losses, after all, people are kind. Don't say that, you're Konoha's hope now. The third Hokage patted Hoshi's shoulder and said, in the future, when I am old, Konoha may need your protection. Xingchen raised his eyebrows, and the words of the 3 generations were a little patient. Could it be that he intended to make himself a Hokage? If he becomes the 4th generation of Hokage, what about the wave feng shui gate? Then again, he never wanted to be a Hokage. Although Hokage is very windy, he needs to carry too many responsibilities and have too many constraints. The stars still yearn for a free and easy life, and when their strength is strong enough, they will escape the world. It is not only the stars that can be heard in the words of the 3 generations of Hokage. Tsunade was happy in his heart, but it didn't matter. However, the Big Snake Pill and Tuanzong have different minds. Tuanzong has been calculating and coveting the position of Hokage for a long time. And the Big Snake Pill is proud, although Xingchen performs well, he does not think that he will be inferior to Xingchen. Moreover, he is a personal disciple of 3 generations of Hokage, and this Hokage position is not passed on to him. To whom? In the original work, the reason why Orochimaru rebelled against the village was that he was discovered by 3 generations in pursuit of forbidden arts. On the other hand, it was also because the position of the Hokage passed to the wave feng shui gate, and he did not have his share, so he held a grudge. Episode 62. After a few days of rest, the Second Ninja World War continued. It's just that in the northern battlefield, the 3 major ninja villages have not sent people over again. Xingchen, why don't you go back to the village to cultivate for a while? 3 generations of Hokage suggested. Xingchen knew that the 3 generations were considerate of him, but he shook his head and said, no, I will continue to stay on the battlefield, just let me be with the rope tree. Speaking of this, Xingchen suddenly remembered again and said, by the way, aren't there some students who have just graduated from the battlefield with the rope tree? It's better to hand them over to me. Okay, that group of lower ninja who came to the battlefield to temper was usually guarded by 1 or 2 upper ninja, and with the ability of the stars today, it was a bit overkill to bring them overkill. However, after all, the stars are about the same age as them, and I believe that they can better integrate together. Moreover, the original intention of the 3 generations was to let the stars rest for a while, so they agreed. Lord Xingchen, those people are all here. Led by an instructor Shinobu, Hoshichin meets Shinobu, who graduated from ninja school and came to the battlefield. At this time, their group of teenagers were fighting straight in a row, as if they were greeting the stars. There are really a lot of familiar faces. Hoshichin saw many people: Uchiha Fugaku, Uchiha Birthday, Uchiha Mikoto, Hinata Hayashi, Michiko, Brother Chen. The rope tree was also there, waving excitedly at the stars, but did not come out of the group. In the face of the guidance of Shinobu, they are still very restrained, so is the school, and so is the battlefield. Shurchi Xingchen. Hinata whispered, feeling infinite emotion in her heart. At the beginning, he also fought with Xingchen, and the 2 were considered equals at that time. Today, although he has the strength to defeat Naka Shinobi, he is still a ninja who needs more training. However, the stars are already legends on the battlefield, and it seems that the killing shinobi is not worthy of his identity, and the killing shinobi does not know the geometry. Even in the face of 3 shadow-level powerhouses, they can talk and laugh and walk calmly. Perhaps now Hoshichin still seems to be only a dark captain, but he is already a hero that everyone admires in Konoha, and his status is higher than that of Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Jiraiya. Just like at this time, they must be obedient and respectful in the face of guidance and patience, and the guide Shangnan in front of the stars, but to greet with a smile. Okay, you leave first, you're here, I don't think they can let go. Hoshichin said to Shinobu under the guidance, I understand, then I will leave first. Shinobu turned away. The atmosphere immediately changed a lot for the better. Xingchen, I knew you were very powerful before, but I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Michiko said adoringly. After all, he and Hashitaka used to be teammates and were both Tsunade's disciples, and Michiko felt incredible. He and Uchiha were born under the guidance of Tsunade and under the tempering of the battlefield, and they improved rapidly, but compared with the stars, the achievements were really not good. You are not bad now, dare to go to the battlefield, it is courage. Xingchen smiled and said, I heard from the 3 generations that you are all very brave. In front of you, who dares to call divine brave? Uchiha Mikoto smiled sweetly. Xingchen, I heard that you will team up with us in the future? Xingchen glanced at Uchiha Mikoto. The 12-year-old she has changed a lot from 2 years ago, and she has already come out and gone, which is very eye-catching. Well, no matter what mission you have in the future, you will be accompanied by me. With this group of peers, the stars seem more relaxed. The tasks they take on are only suitable for lower and medium patients, relatively simple and very dangerous. The stars follow them, often playing the role of escorts, and basically do not shoot, unless it is some emergency. In the blink of an eye, months passed, Xingchen disappeared from the battlefield, and not many people knew that he was mixed up with a group of shinobi. During this time, the war continued to rage. In the battlefield without stars, a group of elites such as Orochimaru, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Kiki Shuamao became the protagonists. Chiyo, another shadow-level powerhouse of shinobu, angrily went to the battlefield because his son and daughter-in-law were killed by the stars, wanting to find the stars to settle the account. Unfortunately, the stars disappeared, leaving her nowhere to be found, so she manipulated the puppet and attacked the Konoha ninja. Chiyo smeared the puppet with poison, and anyone who is contaminated with it is basically equivalent to stepping into the ghost gate with 1 foot. This deadly poison once terrified Konoha, and everyone heard of it, and the army's heart was in turmoil. However, soon after, Tsunade perfectly equipped the antidote and suppressed the poison. Since then, Tsunade's medical ninjutsu has become famous in the ninja world. Is Chiyo also coming to the battlefield? Xingchen was not very surprised when he heard the news. He had expected it. In the original work, the Scorpion's parents died at the hands of Chimu Shuamao, and here, the Scorpion's parents died in his hands. Whether Chiyo or the future Scorpion, they will inevitably seek revenge on him. It's just that he learned the news a little late, otherwise he would definitely come forward in person. Now that Tsunade has lifted the poison, Chiyo seems to be hiding, and there is no trace of her on the battlefield. The battle in Ninja Village has also been going on for 2.5 years, so it should be slowly approaching the end, right? Perhaps because of the relationship between the stars, the melee in Ninja Village became a little tortuous and took a long time. However, fortunately, Konoha stabilized the situation and survived the most critical moment, and the Shinobu Village, Iwa Shinobi Village, and Sand Shinobi Village gradually showed their decay. A month later, Konoha continued to expand its advantage, and the Iwa Shinobu Village of Sand Shinobi successively showed weakness and withdrew from the Ninja Village. The Battle of Shinobu Village ended in a victory for Konoha. However, this does not mean that the Second Shinobi War is over. The melee in the Rain Ninja Village is only one part of the Second Ninja World War, and the battle that really determines the victory or defeat is still to come. After all, there is still a Yunin village, and it has never been involved in the melee of the Yunin village from beginning to end. The village of Yunin surrenders, Shinobu and Iwa Shinobu withdraw from the village of Yunin, Konoha wins, and the ninja army returns in triumph. Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Jiraiya had also apparently fought Hanzo, and the title of 3 Shinobi was laid down. It's just that Jiraiya didn't seem to have returned with the big snake pill Tsunade, and Hogyoku asked Tsunade intentionally or unintentionally, "We met 3 homeless children on the road, and we also sent a wave of kindness, saying that we would settle them and let us come back first." That's true. Xingchen thought to himself, some things were already predestined. Episode 63, The Land of Thunder, Yunin Village, and the 3 generations of Thunder Shadow held a high-level meeting. Guys, the battle over there in the Ninja Village is over. Our Ninja Village has been silent for so long. It's time to make some moves. And the daimyo side has also given us instructions. What instructions? The crowd asked. Earth no Kuni, Land of Earth? A young man who looked like the 3rd generation of Thunder Shadow asked, Father, is the daimyo asking us to attack the Land of Earth? This person is the 4th generation of Liang. He is only 15 years old, and he participates in this kind of high-level meeting with his own strength, which shows that he is extraordinary. Yes, the closest to our Land of Thunder are the Land of Fire and the Land of Earth. And Konoha is strong. We need to avoid the edge for a while, and the best target is the country of Earth. A Yunin consultant sighed. In this troubled world, how difficult it is for Yunin village to develop. Even if resources are plundered from the Land of Earth, you need to take more precautions against the powerful Konoha. Exactly. Someone seconded. In the Battle of Ninja Village, Konoha was always a disadvantage at the beginning, and was jointly oppressed by the 3 shinobi villages. However, in the later period, many excellent ninjas emerged, and the combined forces of the 3 ninja villages were oppressed, which was really terrifying. The 3rd generation of Liang groaned. I also pay attention to this. Orochimaru, Senju Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Chimu Shuamao. These people have extremely strong combat effectiveness, and their strength is still thousands of miles, and they may grow into shadow level in the future. If there really are 4 shadow level powerhouses, then I am afraid that the ninja world will be honored by Konoha. The crowd is worried. However, the 3rd generation of Liang said solemnly, what I am worried about is not these 4 people, but another person. Another person? Many people showed surprise, and a few people also looked solemn, obviously knowing who Liang was referring to. This person's name is Xingchen. He is only 14 years old this year, and according to the intelligence transmitted back from the battlefield, he is already at least a quasi-shadow level strength. What, 14-year-old quasi-shadow level? Everyone was shocked. Isn't this even more terrifying than the 4 people of the Great Snake Pill? Xingchen. The 4th generation of Liang remembered this name in his heart. After all, he is his age, even a year younger than him, and he is already a legendary ninja on the battlefield, which makes his powerful father jealous of him. This person will be the goal of his own transcendence. Guys, although we have suffered heavy injuries in the past 2 years, we have won the battle in the end, and we are worth rejoicing. Konoha won the Battle of Yunnan Village, and everyone had joyful smiles on their faces and prepared to return to the village to celebrate. However, at this moment, a dark ninja rushed in a panic. Naruto-sama, urgent report, the Land of Wind has launched a major attack on the Fire Country, and the daimyo has requested support. What? Rao is the third generation of Hokage, and when he heard the news, he couldn't help but change his expression. Sand Shinobu village has just been defeated, and actually attacked the Fire Country together with the Land of Wind? Perhaps, they were simply defeated, and they still had the strength to fight again, but they changed their strategy and prepared to take advantage of Konoha's slack and break through the defense line of fire in one fell swoop. Everyone, hurry back as fast as you can. Everyone knew that the situation was urgent, and if Konoha did not return, it would be impossible for the army and samurai of the Fire Nation to withstand the attack of the Shinobu village. Hoshichin knew that the war would not end so soon, and the end of the Second Shinobi War in the original book was that Konoha attacked the Land of Wind, and the Kumo Ninja village attacked the Land of Earth. Of course, they will not occupy that country either, but only to claim some benefits. Interests are the fundamental purpose of war. Be careful, there is someone ahead. At this moment, Xingchen reminded everyone. The third generation of Hokage stopped and looked at the stars. There is an ambush? Well, the Land of Wind is attacking the Fire Country, so the Sand Shinobi village will give us some resistance and make it impossible for us to go back to support, Xingchen said, bending down to pick up a stone in the ground and throwing it forward. About 50 meters away, the stone fell to the ground. Rumble. With a loud bang, the original dense forest turned into a barren desert in the blink of an eye. And these deserts are still flowing whirlpools, like mud, once deeply trapped. There is no life. Sand Ninja Village is good at wind and sand ninjutsu, and it is not surprising that it can make such traps. Perhaps this trap can't deal with ninjas above the level of upper shinobi, but it is enough to make the Konoha army panic. Good boy, from such a distance, you can actually find our trap? At this moment, countless ninjas actually emerged from that desert vortex. This team has about 20 or 30 people, all of them are elite ninjas, and there are more than a dozen people in the upper ninja. Sure enough, there is an ambush. The third generation of Hokage took a deep breath and said coldly, the Wind Shadow was kind and scheming, and he was defeated in the Uninja village and turned to attack the Fire Country. Haha. Soldiers are not tired of deceit, war, that's it. On the Sand Shinobu side, a quasi-shadow level leader said in a loud voice, third generation Hokage, you guys have no time to go back to support, so give up. Humph, just because you want to keep us? Tuanzong sneered disdainfully, I don't know if I'm dead or alive. Leaving you guys, of course not, I'm not conceded to this point. Quasi-shadow level Sand Shinobu smiled, but blocking you for a moment or 3 shouldn't be a problem. Yes? The third generation of Hokage drank angrily, jumped up, and attacked the enemy first, directly approaching the quasi-shadow level shinobi. At present, the country of fire is in danger, and there is no room for friction, and it is necessary to solve the group of enemies in front of you as quickly as possible. The thief captures the king first. The fastest way is undoubtedly to directly kill this quasi-shadow level leader, leaving this team leaderless. Although the other party is a quasi-shadow level, the 3 generations of Hokage are also the best, and they are also the best among the shadow-level powerhouses. He was confident that it would not take long to kill the other party. Seeing the 3 generations of Hokage rushing over with lightning speed, the leader of the Sand Ninja was unhurried and let go of one of them. Naruto-sama, I don't think I'm your opponent, so your opponent isn't me. Suddenly, a black shadow burst out from the Sand Ninja team, holding the Sand Spear, and rushed down at the 3 generations of Hokage. Laugh at. The Sand Spear was extremely sharp and extremely fast, instantly piercing through the bodies of the 3 generations of Hokage. Sarutobi-sensei. Tsunade was shocked, and the Konoha ninja's eyes widened in disbelief. However, at this moment, the fire shadow that was pierced by the hole suddenly turned into a pile of dirt, apparently using an earth doppelganger. As for the third generation of Hokage himself, he no longer dared to attack rashly, but jumped back and returned to Konoha's team. This person's strength is extremely terrifying, and he is not below me. The 3 generations of Hokage looked solemn. How is it possible? When did Sand Shinobu appear such a terrifying powerhouse? Everyone saw that this man was a man in his 30s, and he seemed to be a monk, with a bare head and wearing a monk's robe. Xingchen stared at this monk for a long time, and suddenly said, he is a human pillar force. Episode 64. Ichigo Man Pillar Force? When everyone heard this, they were suddenly shocked at the same time, but they were even more shocked. As a human pillar power, it is no wonder that there is such combat power. But Shinobu actually dispatched the tailed beast, which made people angry. The tailed beast has the terrifying ability to easily destroy a country, usually exists as a deterrent, and is never easily used or allowed to be used. Because once you can't control it, the consequences are unimaginable. Xingchen stared at Ichigo Juli. If memory serves, he is called Finfu. Finfu is different from the original Iai Luo. He is a person who can be recognized by Ichigo Shizuru, who once praised Finfu, saying that he is very similar to the 6 Tao immortals and has a loving heart. You should be that legendary young man, Xingchen, right? The leader of the Sand Ninja looked at the stars and said approvingly, sure enough, it is more famous to meet, and young and promising. Xingchen said lightly, I advise you to get out of the way, even if there is a tail of cranes, in the face of so many of us, you are looking for death. The leader of the Sand Ninja smiled and said, I said at the beginning, I never had the luxury of keeping you or killing you, just need to delay for a moment or 3. Yes, but you will procrastinate, won't we delay? The leader of the Sand Ninja was slightly startled, what do you mean? Xingchen did not answer, but turned to the 3 generations of Hokage and said, Lord Hokage, you take people to support the Fire Nation, I will drag them down. You're alone? The 3 generations of Hokage hesitated. Xingchen stayed alone to deal with Ichigo Juli, and he was not at ease. But if too many people are left to help the stars, then even if they rush back to the land of fire, they will not be able to save the situation. I'll stay and help you. Tsunade stood up. How could she rest assured that Xingchen was alone? However, Xingchen shook his head and said, no, I can do it alone. But, don't hesitate any longer, focus on the big picture. If the Fire Nation is captured, what will be the consequences? You know better than me. The 3rd generation of Hokage pondered a little, and then ordered, everyone follow me back, and here is handed over to the stars. Xingchen, you have to be careful, if you can maneuver, you don't have to fight them to the death. Tsunade was helpless, and instructed the stars, following the Hokage around the road. It's that simple for you to get through. Command, stop them. The leader of the Sand Ninja drinks coldly. Finfu was originally a peace-loving person, but at this time, he seemed to be controlled, less conscious, and became a machine, only obeying orders. However, just as he was about to act, a figure of stars flashed and blocked in front of him. Let me learn the power of Shoha. Mess with the account, I don't know if I'm dead or alive. The leader of the shinobu was furious, kill him for me. Since you can't intercept the Hokage, then kill Xingchen first. For Sand Ninja Village, Xingchen is also a very important hidden danger, and killing him will definitely make a contribution. When Finfu heard this, the light in his eyes flashed, and then his right hand moved, rolling up the sand on the ground, forming a sharp and hard sand spear, and killing towards the stars. The moment the sand spear stabbed over, the figure of the stars slowly faded and finally disappeared. After image, the same trick, when I'm stupid? The mocking voice sounded behind him, and without waiting for the reaction of Finfu, the star who suddenly appeared behind held the sand spear in his hand with one hand, and slapped the other hand directly on Finfu. Pung! Like a cannonball, Finfu was blasted out by a powerful force. How could it be? The leader of the shinobi was immediately stunned. He had heard the rumors of the stars and knew that the stars were very strong, and the 3 generations of Wind Shadows evaluated him as at least quasi-shadow level strength. But the strength of the quasi-shadow level can defeat the power of the tailed orc pillar in one fight. He must be controlled by you, right? Xingchen twisted his hand lightly, twisted the sand spear in his hand into powder, and said, this will limit his strength, because now he is like a machine, completely unable to play freely. What do you want to say? The leader of the Sand Ninja certainly knew that controlling the Finfu would limit his power, but he had to do so. After all, he did not dare to release a complete body of a tail. Once a complete body came out, he would turn into the god of killing, and all the creatures around him were the target of his killing. Moreover, Shoha is full of hatred for the Sand Ninja village that sealed him. Maybe the first to kill him is him. I want to say that with his current state, he can't stop me. If you don't release the cranes, you'll all die here. The leader of the Sand Ninja was stunned, and then said contemptuously, you dare to say such a big thing, aren't you afraid of flashing your head? You don't believe it? Even if there is no tail, we still have more than a dozen upper shinobi here. I am also a quasi-shadow level strength. You alone can kill us all? After killing so many of you, it seems that you still don't have a long memory. Xingchen said, suddenly took a deep breath, and Jin Yuan raised sharply. Drink. A heavy breath drank wildly, like a wild beast, roaring wildly, like a dragon's groan, shaking the heavens and the earth. Heaven-level fighting skills, Huangquan Heavenly Fury. In an instant, the sound of the yellow spring coerced 100 miles. Landslides, earth fissures, tsunamis, oblivion, heaven and earth are in turmoil. Poof. On the side of the Sand Ninja, several middle ninja died on the spot, and more than a dozen upper ninja all spat blood in their mouths. Their expressions were pale, and their internal organs were shattered by sound waves. Even the quasi-shadow level Sand Ninja leader felt that his chi and blood were surging, his legs and feet were trembling, and his meridians were in a tendency to break. This? What is this? The leader of the Sand Ninja was terrified. This was simply a scene of doom. It was too terrifying. Just a heavy drink actually has enough power to shock the shadow level? Are you afraid? The stars were still standing in place, not moving a single step. However, on the side of Shinobu, dozens of people who were originally fierce all collapsed to the ground at this time, on the verge of death. What do you think if I say that I only exerted a small part of the power of this move in order to give you breath? When the leader of the Sand Ninja heard this, his pupils shrank. This is actually only a small part of the power? So if the stars were to go all out, how terrifying would it be? But soon, he thought that Xingchen was deliberately scaring him, and couldn't help but sneered. Your strength is unexpected. Maybe I should report this information to Wind Shadow. Xingchen said lightly, you are still dreaming. Do you think you still have life to leave here? The leader of the Sand Ninja wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. I admit that I am not your opponent, but it is impossible for you to kill me. Saying that, the leader of the Sand Ninja clasped his hands together and formed a special handprint. Ninfa, void-breaking art. Wow. The leader of the Sand Shinobi disappeared from the spot without a trace. This is not an instantaneous technique, but a space ninjutsu, the same as the Flying Thunder God. Perhaps this ninjutsu is not as high level as the Flying Thunder God, but space ninjutsu is space ninjutsu, and once it is cast, there is no trace of it. I'm going to kill you. Where can you run? Xingchen smiled disdainfully, urging the Yuan force in his body for the first time. The forbidden element, the power of poor heaven and earth, the first appearance of the Hokage world. 9 secrets. Okay. Episode 65. After the leader of the Sand Ninja performed the spatial ninjutsu, his heart breathed a sigh of relief. The only weakness of space ninjutsu is when it is sealed. If the seal is interrupted, it is also in vain. However, as long as the seal is successful, it will be an immortal, and it will not be able to interfere with him. I can't imagine that in the face of a little ghost, I actually need to use this ninjutsu to escape. It's ridiculous. The leader of the Sand Shinobi laughed at himself. This space ninjutsu is extremely restrictive, and he is not able to control it freely, and there are certain risks, so he never dares to use it easily. But fortunately, I finally got out of the trap. After all, I first told Fengming about Xingchen. His strength is not only shadow level. Suddenly, the leader of the Sand Ninja, who was still in the midst of spatial displacement, only felt an invisible forced coercion coming from the surrounding space, as if he wanted to break through the spatial barrier. Think I can't help you with space ninjutsu? Get out of here for me. With a loud shout, I saw an inexplicable blow flying from outside the sky, and the force of fear actually shook him out of the space tunnel. First, the leader of the Sand Ninja suffered another heavy blow, only to feel that all his internal organs were shattered, and he looked at the lonely young man who stepped on him in horror. He used spatial displacement ninjutsu, and was actually kicked out of space by him? How did you do it? The leader of the Sand Shinobi really couldn't understand it. Do you think space ninjutsu is invincible? Xingchen sneered, in front of my technique, any spatial ninjutsu can only be second-rate. The secret of the line, the ultimate speed in the world, played to the extreme, can pause time. If time is suspended, then space ninjutsu is meaningless. Of course, time has stopped, ordinary people are imperceptible, and their thinking is still coherent. Didn't you flee back to tell you how powerful I am in the Wind Shadow? In fact, there is no need to do this. I killed you here, and Wind Shadow should know what I can do. As for your life, it is completely superfluous, and I will not keep it. After speaking, Xingchen stretched out his hand and waved gently. It did not touch the leader of the Sand Ninja, but it still left a deep blood mark on the neck of the leader of the Sand Ninja, causing him to die instantly. The Land of Wind, with the support of the Shinobu village, attacked the Fire Nation in a big way, and almost broke the fire defense line. Fortunately, at the most critical moment, Hokage arrived with the Konoha elite, and after some maneuvering, the 3 generations of Kazekage knew that the plan had failed, and they no longer did meaningless attrition, and decisively withdrew. When the stars returned, the war was over, and there was nothing he needed to intervene in. Xingchen, are you alright? Tsunade calmed down a little when he saw the stars. Not only was it okay, but I also took a hostage and came back. Xingchen pointed to the Finfu behind him. He is One-tail human pillar force? Tsunade was shocked and a little wary. Don't worry, that Sand Ninja leader is dead, and now that no one controls him, he is like the Walking Dead, and he will not attack people. Tsunade was relieved when he heard this, but he always felt that something was wrong. In fact, Xingchen lied, and as soon as the leader of Sand Ninja died, Finfu was indeed out of control. But later Xingchen used a secret method to control the divine consciousness of Finfu. Otherwise, how can the unfettered blessings obediently follow the stars back? Soon, Hokage also heard the news and rushed over. He was very surprised that Xingchen caught a tail of human pillar force. After all, he was careless before and almost fell into the hands of Renzali. In this regard, Xingchen only said that he did not clash head-on with the human pillar force, and opportunistically killed the leader of the Sand Ninja who controlled him. However, Hokage still felt incredible, because that leader was also a quasi-shadow level strength. When the human pillar power did not have time to support, he was killed, and his strength was at least several times stronger than him. It seems that I still underestimated him. Shinobu failed to capture the Land of Fire this time, and lost another tail, really losing the lady and breaking the army. Tsunade gloated, now their end has come. Xingchen's heart moved, and he asked Hokage, although Sand Shinobu has retreated, this matter is not over, right? Well, the daimyo is very angry and intends to give back to the other in the other way. Counterattack the land of the wind? Yes, now that our Konoha is gaining momentum, and Sand Shinobu has lost consecutive battles and the military is in turmoil, it is indeed a good time, and I am already working on this matter. Xingchen thought to himself. At the end of the Second Shinobi World War in the original work, it was Konoha who attacked the land of wind, and Yun Ninja Village attacked the land of earth. What to do with that tale? This? Hokage momentarily froze. If you change to another village in Kachikyo, it will definitely be happy, but Hokage thinks it is a hot potato. Konoha has the most powerful 9 tails, which is already a deterrent. If there is one more tail, I am afraid that the rest of the shinobi village will be terrified. In case it is attacked by the group, I am afraid that it will be the same as the original Whirlpool family. After all, the power of one village is difficult to compete with the entire ninja world. Moreover, the 9-tailed beasts were originally collected by the original Hokage and then distributed to the major ninja villages. Now it is meaningless to snatch it back, but it falls into the tongue. Even if you really want to return it to Sand Shinobi Village, at least after the war. Although Konoha wants to counterattack the Sand Ninja Village, it is impossible to destroy the Sand Ninja Village. Just let them taste the defeat and obtain some profit resources from the land of wind. I know that the tailed beast is not small, and it needs to be considered in the long run. The 3rd generation of Hokage said, Xingchen, you have worked hard during this time. The war in the land of winds, you don't need to go, rest well. Xingchen shrugged, then I wish you all a good journey. The actions of the land of wind and Shinobi village angered the land of fire and Konoha. In the 35th year of Konoha, Konoha's troops broke into the land of wind, and in just 1 month, they defeated the defense line of wind, and the land of wind and the village of Shinobu announced their surrender. In the same month of the same year, the Yunin village, which had been silent, suddenly attacked the land of earth, and although Iwa Shinobi village tried its best to defend, it still could not withstand the fierce attack. Yunin village broke into the land of earth, and the land of earth was defeated. In the 36th year of Konoha, the Second Shinobi War was declared over, and Konoha and Kumo Shinobi became the beneficiaries. However, Konoha first participated in the Battle of the Rain Ninja Village, and there were many casualties. Relatively speaking, the Yunin village had almost no loss and was the biggest beneficiary. Therefore, the ambitious Yunin village has a different kind of mind. In the dark night, countless cloud ninjas, dressed in disguise, came to the vicinity of Konoha village. Execute Plan A, disperse separately. As a voice sounded, all the ninjas parted in all directions. Episode 66. After nearly 3 years of war, everyone in Konoha was exhausted, and now that the Second Ninja War was over, they thought they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. However, tonight, the war broke out again, and the sudden raid made the Konoha guards unexpected, and they were temporarily confused. The villagers of Konoha were even more chaotic in panic. When Hokage heard the news, he was furious. What's going on? Pray to the Hokage, there is an unknown ninja sneak attack, although there are not many people, but the impact is bad, and the village is in chaos. Hokage frowned. Judging by this level of attack, it was impossible to attack the village. It would undoubtedly be self-defeating. But since their purpose is not to attack the village, then by doing so, causing chaos in the village, I am afraid that it is only to hide their true intentions. Soon, a ninja leapt forward and got down on one knee. Naruto-sama, the enemy attack has been repelled, now it's okay, and the villagers are being pacified. Huh? Hokage asked, did they repel them, or did they retreat on their own initiative? It seems that they themselves retreated. Taking the initiative to retreat, can it mean that their purpose has been achieved? Instead of being happy, Hokage became even more uneasy. At this moment, another ninja hurriedly leaped over. Naruto-sama, it's not good. Uzumaki Gyoshina was captured by the enemy attackers. What? When the 3 generations of Hokage heard this, their expressions immediately changed drastically. The other party's target turned out to be the 9 tails. Chase, everyone chases me. I must save Uzumaki Gyoshina. Yes. In fact, not many people in Konoha knew that Uzumaki Gyoshina was a 9-tailed pillar force. However, Naruto's order, no one will hesitate. After the disguised Yun Shinobu kidnapped Uzumaki Gyoshina, in order to avoid tracking, he divided into several teams and fled from different directions to confuse his sight. And one of the elite squads of 7 people, with the captured Uzumaki Gyoshina, galloped through the hidden path. Seeing that they were far enough away from Konoha, all 7 breathed a sigh of relief. After running so far, it should be safe, and this mission went smoothly. Yes, after the big battle, Konoha let his guard down too much, and actually let us win so easily. At this time, Uzumaki Gyoshina, who was carried by one person, slowly woke up, regained consciousness, and immediately shouted in horror. Who are you? Let me go. Hee hee, little girl, we finally caught you. Put you? You better keep dreaming. Gee, our Yunin village already has 2 tails and 8 tails, plus one of the strongest, 9 tails. In time, it will surely become the largest village in the ninja world. People from Yunin village? Uzumaki Shina said angrily, how dare you do this? Aren't you afraid of Konoha's retaliation, revenge? The 7 people seemed to have heard a very funny joke. Konoha's current situation, still have the ability to take revenge on our Yunin village? Humph, don't you know that Konoha is stronger now than before? Uzumaki Joshinai said proudly, my star brother, but there is no one to beat in the battlefield, even the 3 major ninja villages cannot help him. What is a cloud ninja village? Speaking of which, since the stars went to the battlefield, Joshinai has never seen the stars. But if she hasn't seen it, it doesn't mean that she doesn't know the news of the stars. The reputation of the stars, not only on the battlefield, but also in Konoha village, is almost a household name and everyone talks about it. She attended a ninja school, and many times during the class, the school teacher always talked about the heroic deeds of the stars on the battlefield. Joshinai listened more, but did not feel pompous, but became more and more longing for the stars. After all, in the country of vortexes, she and the stars had experienced tribulations together. You mean Xingchen? Yunren hesitated. That's right, if brother Xingchen knows that you dare to arrest me, he will definitely not let you go. Uzumaki Joshinai saw that the arrogant 7 people really showed a look of jealousy, and he was very proud in his heart. This is her star brother. The absence of people, just a name, makes the enemy timid. I heard that this Xingchen is a character, but we have nothing to be afraid of. Before dawn, we can reach Yunin village. Can he still chase him to Yunin village alone? No need to chase to Yunin village, I can kill you here. Suddenly, a faint voice sounded, which startled everyone. But when I saw the path ahead, I don't know when a young man in white clothes appeared and stopped in the middle of the road. Brother Xingchen. Uzumaki Joshinai struggled to open his eyes. Although the boy in front of her has changed a lot and grown a lot taller, she will not admit it. I was looking forward to it. I thought it was just a sustenance of hope, but I didn't expect that he actually came to save himself. For a while, an irrepressible emotion arose. Joshinai, don't be afraid, I'll save you, they can't hurt you a hair. Xingchen was still afraid that Joshinai would panic, but seeing her appearance, his heart was slightly relieved. Brother Xingchen is here, I'm not afraid at all. Joshinai smiled sweetly. This sentence comes from the heart. She really doesn't have much fear now, just excitement and joy. You are sure Xingchen? The 7 Yunin all stared at the stars warily, then scanned the surroundings again and asked, are you alone? No need to look around, I'm the only one chasing you. Why waste too much manpower against your 7 jumping bean clowns? When the 7 people heard this, they were immediately furious. The 7 of them were responsible for taking away Uzumaki Joshinai. Naturally they were the elites in this mission, and each of them was a strong man who had experienced hundreds of battles. But Xingchen came to chase the 7 of them alone, and even said wildly, saying that they were jumping bean clowns? Arrogant brat, I heard that you are very arrogant in the battlefield of Yuninja village. Let us learn and learn today. Although the stars are very famous, Yunin village did not participate in the battle of Yunin village, and hearsay is always doubtful. A 15 or 16-year-old boy, no matter how strong he is, how strong can he be? I don't need to be taught, I have no interest in you. After saying that, the stars suddenly disappeared from the place. Sonorous, under the night sky, the stars flashed, the sword was like a shooting star, and 7 human heads flew up at the same time. Episode 67. Joshinai only felt the white flowers flashing in front of her eyes, and before she could see what was happening, a pair of warm and powerful big hands stopped her and hugged her, and then jumped into the air at a very fast speed. Brother Xingchen, have you defeated them? Joshinai was surprised. He didn't even know how Xingchen rescued her from Yun Shinobu. Of course, dare to bully Joshinai, how can I let them go? Xingchen smiled and said, I killed them for you, but the picture is a little bloody, and it is not suitable for children. When Joshinai heard this, his little face suddenly turned red, and his heart seemed to beat a little faster. Joshinai, I haven't seen you for a long time, you have changed a lot, especially if you have grown a lot taller. In the moonlight, Xingchen looked at Joshinai carefully. If it weren't for the long bright red hair, he really wouldn't recognize her. It is said that the 18 changes of the female university, and Joshinai has really changed a lot compared to 4 years ago. Yes, has it become pretty? Joshinai asked expectantly. Xingchen rolled his eyes. How old are you to start caring about this? But then again, the girls of the 2nd dimension seem to be very precocious. Is there any? Joshinai stuck to Xingchen's body, coquettish, completely unscrupulous. Ahem. Hurry up, I'm afraid that Yunren still has chasing soldiers, we have to hurry back to the village. In fact, the stars are perfunctory. There are chasers? How many pursuers come? That's all to death. Yunin village, the 3 generations of Laying have not slept all night and have been waiting for news. This time to capture the 9 Tails plan is very crucial. Once successful, Nakumo Ninja Village will become the #1 village in the ninja world in a short period of time. It's a little mean, but the big ones don't have any rules. Ape Flying Sun, don't blame me. Soon, a letter was delivered. Lord Laying, Plan A is successful. The 9 Tails Pillar Force has been successfully captured, and Captain Shang Hui is on their way back. Good, good. The 3 generations of Laying, who usually don't smile, couldn't help but get excited at this time. But before they could rejoice, a bad news came. Lord Liang, we have lost contact with Captain Shang Hui. What? Lost contact? What's going on? I don't know. Captain Shang Hui is responsible for the Ninetales Pillar Force, and we are responsible for cover, but there has been contact. It's just that not long ago, I suddenly couldn't contact them, I'm afraid. With the ability of the 7 people of Shang Hui, even if they are chased by Konoha, none of them should be able to survive. What is the situation? Xingchen returned to the village with Jiao Shinai, and the 3 generations of Hokage, who were anxious, immediately rushed over. Jiao Shinai, are you alright? It's okay, there is brother Xingchen to save me. Jiao Shinai was not afraid of the rest of his life after the disaster, but seemed to have gone out for a trip and was very happy. Xingchen, thanks to you this time. The 3 generations of Hokage sighed. You don't have to do that. Soon, Tsunade and the others, who went out in pursuit, also turned back, expressing surprise that Xingchen had rescued Jiao Shinai. Xingchen, how do you know which wave of people Jiao Shinai was taken by? Tsunade was still strange, and she didn't see the stars home at night, so when Hokage sent an urgent notice, she didn't find the stars and went out alone to chase. However, the enemy was too cunning, separated by 7 or 8 ways, and fled, and it was difficult to pursue. It just so happens. Xingchen said casually. In fact, when Konoha was attacked, the stars reacted immediately, and their target could be the 9 tails, so they were one step faster. Xingchen, did you fight those attackers? Who are they? The 3rd Hokage asked. Xingchen glanced at the 3 generations and said, actually, Naruto-sama should have guessed it, right? The 3rd generation was stunned for a moment, and then frowned. Is it really Yunren? Yun Shinobu? When Tsunade and the others heard this, they were filled with righteous indignation. We and Yunin village have always kept well water from the river. What are they doing here? If it is Sand Ninja Village and IWA Ninja Village, or even Rain Ninja Village, it is understandable. After all, there is a feud in the Battle of Ninja Village. But this Yunin village makes no sense at all. There is no need for hatred at all. They are just to satisfy their interests and ambitions. Xingchen said slowly, the Battle of Rain Ninja Village caused great losses in Konoha, Sand Ninja Village and IWA Ninja Village, and Yunin Village can be described as reaping the benefits of fishermen. The current Yunin Village is undoubtedly the most powerful existence of the 5 great ninja villages. Damn, this Yunin Village is too arrogant, they should be sanctioned. The 3rd generation of Hokage pondered for a moment and said, okay, Jiao Shinai is fine, let's discuss this matter in the long run. In our current situation, it is no longer appropriate to act recklessly. Xingchen knew that in the long run, it meant that this matter was mostly over. After the war, Konoha, despite receiving a certain economy from the Land of Fire, it took a while for people to recover. Xingchen was ready to rest and relax for a while, although his 9 secrets had only learned a small part, but with his current ability, there were few opponents in the world ninja world. The pursuit of powerful abilities is just for the sake of escape. Now there is no worries, why force yourself? Practice can be slow. Captain, Tuanzong said. Please come over. Yuna came to find the stars and stopped talking. If memory serves, this is the 3rd time Tuanzong has wanted to see the stars. The first 2 times, Xingchen ignored Tuanzang's summons, so she felt that this time, it was estimated that there was no drama. But to her surprise, Xingchen actually nodded in agreement immediately. Yuna, you can go with me to see Danzo and see what he has to say? Good. Walking into Jen's headquarters, Danzo was already waiting. Sure, Xingchen, I thought you were going to reject me again, but I didn't expect that you still gave me this face after all. Tuanzang's face was expressionless, and he looked like a dead face. This, presumably, is his signature expression. To anyone, say, what are you looking for me for? Xingchen said lightly, are you ready to apologize to me? Apologize? Tuanzong was slightly startled. Presumptuous. In the darkness behind Tuanzong, 2 figures flashed and angrily scolded the stars. Dare to be rude to Master Tuanzong. Why, do it to me? Xingchen raised his eyebrows, and said with disdain in his sneer, before this, it is best to weigh your weight, whether you have that qualification. Episode 68. Today's stars are no longer what they used to be. In the past, many people in Konoha would look at Tsunade's face and look up at him, and this is the only time. But now, he doesn't need to rely on any relationship. He is already in existence admired by countless people in Konoha. He is just a dark captain, and in terms of official position, he is definitely not comparable to Tuanzong. However, when it comes to status, he is already above the 3 ninjas, and even if he is a group, he can only be on an equal footing with him at most. Liang Xiao, you stand down. Remember that it is forbidden to speak to him in this tone in the future. Tuanzong said indifferently. It sounded reprimanding, but it didn't feel that way at all. Obviously, Tuanzang ostensibly recognized the status of the stars. However, it is only on the surface, just a facade. Yes. The 2 never questioned Tuanzang's words, and respectfully retreated into the darkness. Xingchen asked with interest, Tuanzong, can't you see that you are quite generous? Your Excellency Xingchen, you don't need to be sarcastic about me, We did have a trace of unpleasantness before, and I came to you today for this purpose. Has even the title changed? Xingchen said lightly, or are you really ready to apologize to me? Tuanzang's face did not change color. Do you mean the incident when you were besieged by Hanzo and Wind Shadow, and I abandoned you and fled? Of course, the most annoying thing in my life is this kind of villainous behavior. The stars spoke without mincing. Tuanzang was also not angry, and said, if you really need this apology, then I will give it to you. I hope you don't think about it anymore. Rao as the stars, hearing these words, his heart couldn't help but be stunned. This guy is really calm and can flex and stretch. Well, since you sincerely apologize, I accept. Is there anything else? If not, I'll go back first. Wait, I'm not done yet. Then you go on, I'll listen. Tuanzang said, you are not what you used to be, I must admit that. Although you are not old enough for you to hold too high a position, your position in Konoha is no longer replaced. There is no one to replace. It does not mean the highest status, it just means a special existence. After all, Xingchen's record in Ninja Village, no second person can do it. So, I believe that you and I are all dedicated to the development of Konoha, so why not put aside past grudges and live together peacefully? If necessary, further cooperation may be possible. Tuanzang sharpened the tone of further cooperation, which seemed to be deliberately implied. Xingchen immediately understood that Tuanzang still wanted to win him over. Danzo has no heart for betrayal towards Konoha, and everything he does is also for Konoha's good, which Xingchen knows. But he is a very selfish person, and many things are self-righteous. His heart is directed towards Konoha, and what he does will harm Konoha's interests. For example, he has always been obsessed with the position of Hokage. With the current status of the stars in Konoha, if the stars can support him, I am afraid that the next Hokage's position will be very stable. It's just that he had the intention to woo the stars, but he just saw that the stars were a usable talent, and now he wants to win over the stars, and he has to invite them as equals. Tuanzang, I can tell you very clearly that I don't mind your escape last time. But even without this matter, what kind of person you are has already been fixed in my heart. So this further cooperation, it should not be half possible. You are still dead. Xingchen directly picked out the words. Let him support Danzo as Hokage? It's almost crazy to be crazy. Tuanzang Gujingwubua's face finally trembled, and he frowned. Xingchen, why is this so? He was still a little puzzled in his heart, and he didn't know why Xingchen was so repulsive to him. The first 2 times I summoned him, he refused, and I didn't bother him? Anyway, I hope you think about it. The future ninja world is unpredictable, and Konoha can better gain a foothold in the ninja world, and it will take the lead by relying on a small number of people. Are you saying that I'm just a small group of people who can change Konoha's fate? Xingchen smiled and said, thanks to your praise, but the words are not speculative for more than half a sentence. Yuna, let's go. Yuna, who had been following the stars and had never said a word, only answered respectfully at this time. Yes, Captain. Yuna is very good at cooperating with the stars. In private, she has an excellent relationship with Xingchen, and there is no need to salute at all. But in front of Tuanzang, she showed that subordination relationship to the extreme. It was at the beginning, when the 2 hands of Tuanzang were disrespectful to the stars, Yuna was ready. As long as the 2 of them dare to make a move, she will definitely take the lives of the 2 of them first. During her time on the battlefield, her strength has also improved a lot, and she really doesn't put it in her eyes when she is generally tolerated. What about Tuanzang's subordinates? Now she only obeys the orders of Xingchen alone. Walking out of the route headquarters, Yuna became active again and said with a smile, Captain, think about when I first met you, you were still a nameless person. Now, even in the face of Tuanzang, you have enough confidence. More than 4 years is not a long time, and Xingchen is only 16 years old. A 16-year-old boy, but his achievements are already comparable to the core high level of Konoha like Tuanzang, and he has to be said to be a legend. I'm not interested in power, but sometimes, having a certain amount of power will make you a lot less troublesome. At least no one dares to bully you casually. At this moment, a dark ninja wearing a mask fell in front of the 2. Lord Hoshido, Hokage has a request. Hokage looking for me? It's fun, it's all together. Xingchen smiled. Yuna, you go back first, I'll go see Hokage. Good. In front of Tuanzang, Xingchen was neither humble nor promiscuous, maintaining his posture. And in front of Hokage, he seemed casual. Suddenly looking for me, what's the matter? When the 3 generations of Hokage saw the stars, they seemed to be in a very good mood, and asked, how is it lately? Have you recovered from the war? I have never felt that the war is very bitter and tiring. How can I recover? The 3rd generation was slightly startled and said with a wry smile, you are really relaxed. Okay, let's get down to business. Well, with your achievements today, letting you serve as the captain of a small dark section is really burying you. So I have an idea. Episode 69. Thoughts, isn't it giving me a promotion? Xingchen said strangely, it's a promotion, but you're too young to even be 18, and many positions are not suitable for you. The 3rd generation of Hokage said, I was wondering how to give you some more tempering. Tempering? Xingchen said, it's not necessary, right? I'm not talking about honing your strength, but about other aspects, such as leadership. The 3 generations of Hokage are very clear that the strength of the stars is most likely already shadow level, and there is no need to temper at all. But just having strength is not enough. To take on great responsibilities, the rest of the talents must also be possessed. Leadership? Xingchen was slightly startled. You don't want to. As I said, sooner or later Konoha needs you to protect it, and you have this qualification. The 3rd generation of Hokage side, I originally planned to raise an inheritor from the 3 of Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade, but now I find that Orochimaru is not in the right state of mind, and he is also bohemian, and Tsunade is okay, but he is a woman after all. Fortunately, your appearance gave me hope. I'm not interested in the position of the Hokage, and this position really doesn't suit me. This kind of thing cannot be cultivated. The stars are calm, he yearns for freedom, and the position of the Hokage represents a lifelong responsibility that can never be escaped once inherited. You're not interested? The 3 generations of Hokage were in trouble, and he didn't expect that Xingchen and Jiraiya had the same personality. Can't you just do it for Konoha's sake? There is no more suitable person than you. No, there is another person who is more suitable than me, huh? The 3rd generation Hokage wondered. Who? Wei Fengshui men. Wei Fengshui men? The 3 generations of Hokage thought hard for a long time, but in their minds they couldn't think of such a person, and they couldn't help but wonder, who is he? If that's right, he's a graduate of this class, and he's about 10 years old this year. The graduates of this class. The 3 generations of Hokage looked confused. Xingchen, are you serious? Xingchen said seriously, of course, I am very serious. Maybe the Wave Feng Shui gate is still unknown now, but in the future, he will definitely move the ninja world. The position of Hokage is inherited by him, and it is perfect for him. You are familiar with Bo Feng Shui men? The 3 generations of Hokage will be suspicious. I don't know what to say, but you're right to believe me. If you graduate from Bo Feng Shui men, you can let Zi Lai accept him as a disciple, and after another year or 2 of precipitation and accumulation, his talent will be displayed. Well, then I'll observe again. The stars are not interested in the position of the Hokage, and the 3 generations are not easy to force. As for Bo Feng Shui men, just pay more attention. Anyway, there is still time. Okay, nothing else, I'll go first. Wait. The 3rd generation of Hokage called out to the stars and said, although you don't want this Hokage position, it's certain that you will be promoted, and I haven't told you what I said before. Hoshi thought that the idea of the 3 generations of Hokage was to make him a Hokage, but it wasn't. I'm going to set up another separate department in the Dark Division. Hokage paused and said, or rather, let you create a department. Xingchen's heart moved, and he asked in surprise, same as the root of Tuanzang? The root organization of Tuanzang also nominally belongs to the dark part, but he is independent of the dark department. The people in the root organization are directly under the orders of Danzo and cannot go through the Hokage. Hokage asks him to create a department like the root organization, which is equivalent to allowing him to cultivate power, a department that obeys only his orders. This doesn't seem good? Xingchen wondered, how could Danzo and the other high-ranking people of Konoha agree? Even though he is now famous and has made a lot of contributions to Konoha, it is no small thing for a 16-year-old boy to create a force that is not under the jurisdiction of Hokage. An ambitious person like Tuanzang is definitely the first to oppose it. There is also the rigid Konoha advisor, Koharu and Mizuto Minyen, who categorically cannot agree. Don't worry, they don't need their consent. I, the Hokage, can still decide a little thing on my own. When Xingchen heard this, he was slightly surprised. It seems that the 3 generations of Hokage have not informed the others at all, and intend to go their own way. The 3 generations of Hokage in this period are really strong. Well, since you said so, then if I still refuse, I will live up to your expectations. Xingchen agreed. The department he created, exclusive to himself, unrestricted and unfettered, was in line with his philosophy, and from now on, he can really stand on an equal footing with Tuanzang. Well, I'm sure you'll do more in the future. Even if you don't become Hokage, you will be the pillar of Konoha. Although this matter has been secretly finalized by the 3 generations of Hokage and Xingchen, it also takes some effort to implement. The stars are not in a hurry, just take your time. However, he knew that once he really created a force of his own in Konoha, the impact on future generations would be huge. Yunin Village, Thunder Shadow Office, Shichi Xingchen, it was this guy who ruined our good deeds and killed Shanghui and them all. It's really abominable. The 3rd generation of Liang slammed on the desk, extremely angry. Lord Liang, we have long heard that this Shichi Xingchen is unstoppable. He is a young genius, and today he really saw what he can do, and if it is not restricted, I am afraid that it will become our henchman in the future. Next to him, a tall woman holding a document in her arms pushed her glasses with a solemn expression. It is not difficult to understand that he can take away the 9 tails without a word, and kill 7 Shanghui people. It is really terrible, and San Shinobu will suffer losses at his hands. The third generation of Thunder Shadow mused, but the Second Ninja World War has just ended. I'm afraid there is no chance to target him for the time being. The tall woman thought for a moment and said, I have a plan, maybe it works. Oh? Say it and listen. The eyes of the 3 generations of Lei Ying lit up. This woman is his secretary and his brainstorm. Previously, he could not grasp many decisions well, thanks to her advice. Episode 70. The root organization of Tuanzang is responsible for the training of personnel in the dark department, and Xingchen must also have its own positioning if it wants to establish a similar organization. After discussing with the 3 generations of Hokage, the future organization of the stars will be responsible for assassination, assignment of tasks, and other related work. Therefore, the stars named it Shadow. A month later, the Shadow organization was officially established, founded by Xingchen, and began to secretly collect talents. If you don't do it, you have to do it the best. The purpose of the stars is to prefer lack to abuse. Not an elite, not allowed to enter the Shadow organization, and this concept coincides with 3 generations of Hokage. The 3 generations even passed on the position of Hokage to the stars, which was equivalent to entrusting Konoha to him, and they must trust him unconditionally. Let the stars take power, he will not have any scruples. The legendary reputation of the stars, coupled with the personal authorization of Hokage, the Shadow organization gathered a group of elite ninjas in a very short time, and the growth rate was very terrifying. Of course, all this was done in secret, and the rest of the people were unaware of it except for the stars themselves and the 3 generations of Hokage, as well as those who had joined the Shadow organization and declared their allegiance. Xingchen, what have you been busy with lately? Why do you always leave early and return late? Tsunade wondered that she was usually busy, and finally had a few days off, hoping that the stars could accompany her, but she couldn't find someone from the stars. Well, I've been a little busy lately. I'm busy with a big thing. Big deal? Tsunade was slightly startled. What's the big deal? Can't say, you'll find out later. Although Hoshichin trusted Tsunade very much, he couldn't tell her everything. The Shadow organization is still under construction, so it's better not to expose it for the time being. When Tsunade heard this, he became even more unhappy, and said with a gloomy face, Xingchen, I really can't understand you more and more. Men are more attractive when they remain mysterious, aren't they? It's you. Tsunade gave him a blank look and sighed, well, I don't care about you. But a few days later, a batch of new students from the ninja school graduated, and you and I went to their graduation ceremony. Are you going to bring new students again? The stars were surprised. I'm too lazy to bring it, but Jioshinai has asked me many times to pull you over. Tsunade said lightly, you have now pulled the wind and have become an idol admired by countless girls. Tsunade, you shouldn't be jealous, right? Xingchen said with a smile. Tsunade's breath froze, and then he slapped Xingchen's head. What nonsense, what kind of vinegar do I eat? Your brain burned out. Tsunade's slap, if the stars want to hide, it is really not difficult. But he didn't hide, allowing this slap on the head. After all, Tsunade was reluctant to push to herself. It was just a way for her to maintain her reserve. If this also has to hide, then the stars will be doomed in this life. Okay, when I didn't say, I'll go to the graduation ceremony with you in a few days. Xingchen said, and asked again, what about the rope tree? Why haven't you seen him recently? You don't know yet, rope tree has passed the assessment of Shangnin, and he is now an official Shangnin. Tsunade said, feeling incredible. By the way, was it caused by that strange thing you gave him to eat? Rope Tree has had a good talent since childhood, and Tsunade knows this. However, since the great disaster in the battlefield, his progress has been particularly outstanding, almost every day, and it can no longer be described as talented. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is the second demon besides the stars. Do you think that what I give to the Rope Tree will be an ordinary thing? Xingchen said with a smile. After breaking and standing, the effect of the Yin Yang Xianlong pill finally came into play. Perhaps, it would not be bad to let the Rope Tree join the Shadow organization. Is there really such an amazing thing? Tsunade asked, is there anything else? Give me a few. There is no Rope Tree of the same type, but... said Xingchen, taking out a milky elixir and handing it to Tsunade, you may like this one more, huh? Isn't it the same? In Tsunade's eyes, the elixirs all look the same, and there is no difference. It's different. Tsunade took the elixir, feeling the residual temperature left on it, and wondered, then what is the effect of this? I said that I can keep you young forever and never grow old, do you believe it? Xingchen said with a smile. When Tsunade heard this, his eyes immediately widened. Eternal youth? Never grow old? How can there be such a thing in the world? Women love beauty by nature, and Tsunade is the same, so she has been using her medical ninjutsu to try to create ninjutsu that can maintain her appearance, but she has not succeeded. This is the later art of Baihao, and even if she takes a step back, she successfully created the 100 Hao technique, but in fact, it is just a trick. The art of Baihao relies on chakra activity to maintain appearance, which is not really imaging, and there is an essential difference from the stars that never age. Because once ninjutsu is lifted, she will still grow old. Well, no matter what, it's always right if you eat it, and I won't hurt you. Xingchen knew that Tsunade, who had not yet created the 100 Heroes technique, could not believe it. However, he is not in a hurry to explain, waiting for time to verify. Resident Yandan sounds mysterious in the Hokage world, but in the world of other dimensions, it is not a rare thing. This Yandan was just an item drawn in the ordinary lottery area. Although she didn't believe that this pill could really last forever, Tsunade naturally believed that the stars would not harm her, so she took the Juyan pill in front of her. At this moment, a figure appeared out of thin air. It was Yuna. Captain, Naruto-sama is looking for you. I see. Hashichin nodded and said to Tsunade, okay, I'll go see Hokage, you will remember to take a shower later. The stars left, and Tsunade was still wondering. He always loved to be clean, like he hadn't bathed in a long time. I thought that Hokage was looking for himself, or for the matter of the shadow organization. But as it turned out, he thought wrong. When I entered the Hokage office, there were not only 3 generations of Hokage here, or rather, the large number of people is a bit unusual. 2 heavily armed samurai, 3 ninjas, and a 17 or 18-year-old girl. Ninjas, judging by their costumes, should be from Yunin village. As for the girl, she was dressed luxuriously, with an innate noble temperament. Her appearance was delicate, her body was perfect, her skin was like condensed jade agar, and she was almost a little enchanting. Seeing this, Xingchen was full of question marks. What is the situation? Xingchen, you're here. When the 3rd generation of Hokage saw the stars, he immediately said, let me introduce you. This is the Princess of the Land of Thunder, Shizuka Hata. Princess of the Land of Thunder? Xingchen was slightly startled and looked at the delicate girl again. Hello, are you Your Excellency Xingchen? The girl opened a pair of beautiful eyes, carefully looked at the stars, then smiled sweetly, stretched out her hand, and said, it's really as rumored, it's nice to meet you for the first time.